The auction attracted a wealth of buyers hoping to snare 563 hectares of local history. Bengalla was established in 1885 as a land grant. The property has had 3 owners. For the last 50 years it's been in the Miles family. But after some cautious bidding, Bengalla has changed hands again. Ken Sleep, a businessman from Newcastle, was congratulated by his family. Ken says he hopes to continue breeding cattle on the property.
It's a dream that I've always wanted, and that's why I'm so ecstatic about it.
Skipper Trevor Humphrey, his son and teenage daughter were sailing from Newcastle to their home base of Lake Macquarie at around 3:30 when trouble set in. With a 30-knot wind, sails were down and they were making way under engine power. The bracket holding the outboard broke and the yacht was washed by 2-metre seas to the beach.
Suddenly the motor just dropped off the back of the boat, and suddenly the boat just comes straight in here, and waves are coming over the top, and we were scared and all that. When we got to the beach, the boat just leaned straight over the side, and we just bailed straight out of it because we got crushed.
Onlookers contacted the police and the yacht Emma was winched up the beach, ready to be refloated in the high tide tonight. It was Emma's first voyage after months out of the water for repair work.
Took it for its maiden voyage, like the Titanic. Oh, it's scary out there. Don't think I'll go on again.
Rescuers came to the aid of another sailor late this afternoon. The police launch Intrepid towed the lone crewman of the Mary Ward into Newcastle Harbour after he lost engine power in the heavy conditions. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
Neighbourhood Watch is the home guard of suburban crime fighting. It's the eyes and ears of the community and can help police detect, predict and hopefully prevent crime in the neighbourhoods. Residents are asked to report anything that looks or sounds suspicious, and they're now being armed with the latest weapon in the crime fight, an Identikit sheet. Police are working on the theory that the immediate recall after witnessing an incident leads to the clearest description of an offender. The Identikit is accompanied by a report form, which is used to take details of time, place and suspicious vehicle descriptions. The package has been welcomed by Neighbourhood Watch.
And with this Identikit, they'll be able to, if they keep it by their phone where we want it nice and handy where anybody in the family can get at it, they can jot down what they saw and straight away, and then they'll always remember it.
500,000 of the forms will be in circulation by the end of the month, and it's hoped they'll be distributed with the regular Neighbourhood Watch newsletters.
The population of the Central Coast is growing at 3 times the state's average, with thousands commuting daily from Gosford railway station, many in the early hours of the morning. Though a 24-hour service has operated for 2 years on weekend nights, the weekday need has, until now, been ignored. But all that is changing with approval from the New South Wales Department of Transport for combined district radio cabs to extend their hours. The company operates 44 cabs throughout the Central Coast. From September the 3rd, there will be a minimum of 2 cabs operating from Gosford. Others will be based in Wyong, The Entrance and Toukley.
There'll be a number of reasons, I think, why people might want cabs. In those hours of the morning, people commute, cars break down, kids get hurt or sick and will have to go to hospital, all sorts of reasons. I think the service will be in demand and it will be popular.
Recognised as a crucial warm-up for the rich spring races, Newcastle's Spring Cup traditionally attracts plenty of interest, and today's pleasant weather saw a good crowd at Broadmeadow to enjoy the 10-event program. While form, of course, was paramount, fashion too took a high profile today, with the special Fashions of the Field competition to give the ladies a chance to show off the latest spring wear. From a final field of 6, Brenda Ambler, wearing a smart black and grey ensemble, was awarded the $1,000 winner's cheque. Then, with the glamour side out of the way, it was time to settle down to the serious business of picking a winner for the big one, and it took only a moment or two in the betting ring to see who the punters most fancied. The last start winner, Regal Cella, had soon slipped down to 6-4 for outright favouritism, just ahead of the Rose Hill trained Impresetto. But despite having to carry all those extra dollars around with him, the horse himself seemed to be coolly confident in his stall as trainer Paul Perry saddled him up. Cella jumped well to settle midfield for the 1850-metre event, but despite being well positioned as they straightened for home, jockey Shane Dye admitted there were a few anxious moments when he went for the whip.
He looked beat at the furlong, looked as though he was going to run third, but the last 50 metres he really lifted and pulled that extra bit out.
Just watch that first route. Just to your right, yeah, you're right.
The competition was held last night at the Novocastrian Motor Inn at the East End. 30 practising bartenders took up the challenge to mix the original liqueur which would most please the judges. It's a long drink event run according to International Bartenders Association rules. Among them is one which limits the alcohol in each recipe to the equivalent of the amount in 5 middies of beer. How the judges managed to make a decision is a puzzle, but they did. First prize for Graham Gilkinson earned him a trophy, $1,000 and theatre tickets. Denise Huffey from the Brewery Tavern came in second with Tokyo Rose, and Dale Lane from the 16-footers was third. It's the third time the annual competition's been conducted, no doubt to promote Suntory liqueurs, but also to promote the art of cocktail mixing.
This is the police force's new secret weapon, a suitably nondescript Ford F100 utility.
We implemented it to this type of policing to detect offenders who normally avoid it through modern technology like radar detectors and so on, CB radios.
The camouflage cars will be equipped with a pre-tested speedometer and a police radio. Anyone seen speeding will simply be reported to a normally marked highway patrol car positioned further up the road.
Offences exceed speed 120 kilometres an hour.
Those who are caught will pay an expensive price, but local drivers have been warned. There are only 2 of these signs in the state, this one near Bulladilla and another further up the Pacific Highway.
It is mainly because of the notorious road that we're on now, the Pacific Highway, where, as you know, with the fatalities that we've had here, it's a real problem area.
And the bad news for lawbreakers is that this won't be a one-off blitz. Police say it will be an ongoing operation carried out at least once a week, involving a different vehicle on every occasion. Bruce Mackenzie, NBN News.
4 weeks ago, the Honeysuckle goods yard looked like anything but a rock venue. But after careful planning and hard work, the site is almost ready for the 6,000 fans expected on Sunday night. The State Rail Authority and Rock City Promotions have pooled their resources to make the event possible.
There's been significant cooperation between the promoters people and State Rail people, and as you can see, this is going to be a big event for the community of Newcastle on Sunday evening.
$50,000 has been spent to prepare the yard and 200 tonnes of gravel spread to level the ground under the super top acoustic dome. Extra trains will run to nearby Civic Station, and there'll be more buses to and from the city. Chart-topping bands The Angels and Cheap Trick could not be accommodated at any other venue in the city, so the only alternative was to build one.
I think we will still see these temporary structures happening with larger events until such time as Newcastle has the venue that it deserves. We're the 6th largest city in Australia, and we don't have the benefit of venues that other large cities do have.
So what can concert goers expect?
Big light show, big production, lots of people, lots of excitement. Newcastle's likes its rock and roll. It's the largest rock and roll show the town will ever see.
These pictures of devastation in Hamilton's Beaumont Street on December 28 were seen all over the world. Hamilton was hard hit by the quake. 3 people were killed by falling awnings, 1 person at the Kent Hotel. A famous local watering hole, the Kent was ripped open, shaken and cracked. Over the protests of the owners, demolishers were called in to remove unsafe walls. Eight months later, and the hotel has had a $400,000 facelift.
It's been a lot of work, but to see it all in place, it's made a lot of people happy, and I think actually it'll be very good for Beaumont Street and Newcastle on a whole.
Tonight, a private reopening of the 66-year-old pub. Beer and champagne flowing again. Dramatic photographs on the walls remembering that tragic December day. Public trade at the Kent will be opened early next week. Peter Ryan, NBN News. Organisers were overawed by the turnout, thousands of teenage girls trying to get a glimpse and perhaps a touch of their idol. Craig McLachlan became an Australian and international star from his years in the soapy Neighbours, but now he's concentrating on his music. Craig has special connections with this area. He grew up on the Central Coast and worked as a gym instructor in Newcastle. So how does he feel about the reception?
It's a bit like coming home. It's like slipping into a comfortable old pair of shoes. It's great to be back.
Craig signed autographs and chatted to some of his young followers.
What do you think of Craig?
He's beautiful. I'm so nervous.
What was it like when you met him?
My heart's just going a million miles an hour. I'm just going to pass out.
And in Newcastle's Hunter Street Mall today, pandemonium of another type, Turtle Mania. These young fans had come to see Leonardo, Michelangelo, Raphael and Donatello, the famous Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the former comic book and now real-life heroes in a half-shell.
As hard as it was, all Wayne Pearce could do yesterday was sit and watch his beloved Tigers go down to the Knights and force a play-off for 5th position in the Winfield Cup for 1990. But today a different atmosphere at Charlestown Square as hundreds of Pearce fans flocked to Collins' bookshop for a copy of his literary work Local Hero and a quick glance at the legend. Organisers were stunned at the response, with over 200 copies sold before Pearce turned up for the signing session and another 500 expected to be sold before he left. It was all a bit of a shock for Wayne.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing yesterday. A lot of these people are feeling sorry for me, I think. That's why they've turned up today.
For a group of devoted fans of the Balmain Star from Charlestown Primary, mixed emotions on the outcome of tomorrow night's match. Who's going to win? And enhancing his image as one of the all-time great and genuine players of rugby league, the last word from the champ.
It was really nice yesterday too to receive a plaque and also a jumper from the Newcastle Knights Club and also their supporters. I'd like to thank everybody up here for their support that they've given not only myself but rugby league over the years. It's really tremendous.
Council commends all concerned for these achievements, colleagues, so I believe a few words of explanation are appropriate. Prepared well for their ACHS accreditation survey. Thank you.
Warners Bay ran away with the game at Hawkins Oval, inflicting a 65-point defeat on defending premiers the Wallsend Swans. The Bulldogs beat the Swans to the ball for most of the play and by half-time had opened up a winning lead. The Swans watched their premiership hopes take a beating while Warners Bay sealed its grand final berth with a 102 to 37-point win. Wallsend now face an informed Nelson Bay for a preliminary final playoff next Saturday. At the New South Wales Indoor Cricket Championships, the Castle Hill teams stormed to victory. The A-grade men's team showed its superiority with a 112 to 77 win over Sutherland. The Castle Hill women also showed their dominance with a convincing 98 to 75 win over Blacktown. And despite today's occasional showers, 14 Services Bowls teams rolled up for the 7th annual NBN Premierships Fours tournament at the Hamilton Bowling Club. Professional rivalries aside, the competition was nonetheless fierce. At the end of the day, the Taxis had picked up straight wins in the singles, pairs and teams games, as well as this year's trophy, which will be presented at a dinner tonight.
Convened in Port Macquarie by the Hastings Municipal Council, the Pacific Highway Forum had been expected to attract as many as 1,000 participants, because the North Coast tourist industry is clearly being hurt by the highway's image, and they wanted to send a message to government. But only about 100 turned up, and the absentees included the two key government speakers, New South Wales Roads Minister Wal Murray and Federal Transport Minister Bob Brown. Both had other engagements. Mr Brown, however, did send a video and a representative of his department. But it was another Mr Brown who set the pace, former Federal Tourism Minister John Brown, now heading a tourism task force.
It seems to me to be ridiculous in a country like Australia that 45 years after the cessation of World War II, we've still got what is virtually a goat track between Sydney and Brisbane as a main road. Now, if there's too much said about the disaster of the Pacific Highway, there is the possibility of determining that people aren't going to use it.
Planned improvements were detailed, but it's now clear that it will be at least 2 years before any of the additional work gets underway. And in the meantime, the NRMA's Richard Cox left no doubt that the highway is in an unacceptable state.
The condition of the pavement can be best described as generally poor to fair, with only infrequent sections of good pavement. Shoulders in many places are narrow and unsealed, providing a driver little room to manoeuvre. We don't believe that anyone can argue that that's probably the worst road in Australia.
What's obvious from today's conference is that communities along the highway, who rely so heavily on tourism, are deeply concerned about the problems of the highway, and they want them fixed. But they'd rather not talk about it. They'd rather no one knew of the highway's shortcomings. However, it is equally obvious that those problems are simply not going to go away until there are major improvements to the road. Jim Sullivan, NBN News.
Most people avoid needles like the plague, but Bill Fox has been happily rolling up his sleeves and donating blood since he was 17. Now at 60, he's one of the few donors who passed the 200 mark. He visits the Hunter Blood Transfusion Service every fortnight to donate plasma and gives blood 4 or 5 times a year. And according to Bill, it doesn't hurt a bit.
Don't feel a thing. In fact, you feel a lot better after it. The body's regenerating new blood cells as you're going through, and I think it makes the body feel a lot better.
His reason for making regular donations is simple.
Somebody needs it, and I've got it, so I might as well give it to them. And one of these days I might have to make a withdrawal, but you never know, so I hope they keep a bit aside for me.
To honour Bill's faithful commitment and to mark his 227th visit, the head of the Hunter Blood Bank presented him with a special medal. 65 is the maximum age for those who give blood, so Bill has about 140 more visits to go before his last voluntary needle. After that, his son Shane, who's been giving blood for 2 years, will no doubt maintain his father's tradition.